Hello, beautiful people. It's a girl Gine, and it's Gine's signatures. I welcome you all to my channel. Thank you all, and God bless you. So today we'll be making this beautiful gown. As you can see, it has two patterns, and it has a very beautiful design in the front. So if this is what you're interested in knowing how I made it, please kindly sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the ride together. So I made use of 2.5 yards of fabric for this, and then the plain fabric I made use of half yard, but you can make use of 1 yard if you want, but I just had to make do with half yard of fabric for that plain part. So but the other Ankara or African print part was 2.5 yards of fabric. So now if this is what you're interested, but if you're on the smaller side size, you can make use of 2 yards or 1.5 yards safe, depending on how your size is. So let me just delve into this. Well, I'll be drafting this on the pattern paper first because of the pattern in the front before transferring to the main fabric. So I have my folded pattern paper folded into two, and I've gone ahead to get my shoulder measurement and then the armhole. So now the next thing I'm doing now is just to get my half length or the waistline, that is from the shoulder to the waist, which is 18 inches. And then I'll do my shoulder to my hip line, or you can do your waist to your hip. Anyone you have, it's also okay. So I'll do my waist to hip because I don't have the shoulder to the hip measurement of my client. So I'll be marking that about 11 inches or 10.5 inches. Yeah. So I'll just rule all that line out on a straight line to give me, to show the lines where I'll be taking my measurements. So the first one I'm ruling now is the waist line, and then I'll go over to roll out the hip line. So now for the length of this paper, it really is not up to the length of my client's length for the gown. So when I'm transferring on my fabric, I'm adding extra inches to make up for the length of the gown, because the length of the paper is not equal to the length of my client's gown length. I believe you understand me. So I've gone ahead to do my neck width. The neck width I made use of 4 inches, and then for the neck depth for the front I made use of about 6 inches. Yeah, and it's going to be a round neckline. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to get my bust measurement divided by 4. So this is just me basically drafting a basic bodice, and that is just it. So if you know how to draft a basic bodice, you can just go ahead and do all this, so that by the time I get to where I'll be manipulating all the designs in the front, it will be quite easy for you. So now I'll just divide my armhole by 2, get the midpoint to get my armhole curve for the front. Then come in by 1/2 inch and then connect it with my armhole curve, like so. So this is what I have. So now I'll just come over to the waist line and then divide the waist by 4, add 1 inch for ease, and then add your sewing allowances as appropriate. Sorry, the paper is folding because of the way it was handled. Like I rolled it and kept, so that's why it's folding like this. Yeah. So I'll just use something to hold that so that it will not keep flipping over. So I'll just come to the hip line as well. Divide the hip by 4. Add 1 inch for ease, because it's supposed to be a free, not too free gown, but free somehow. You don't want it too loose on your body because you want it having fittings. So I think 1 inch will be okay because my client is on the big side. So I just added 1 inch for ease to our normal measurements. And then of course you add your sewing allowances. Now for mine, you can see that I've already exhausted the whole length of this. I didn't have the sewing allowance here, so when I'm cutting on my fabric, I'll be adding the sewing allowance. So whatever you have on your hip line is what you're going to be taking to the length of the gown. So I'll be connecting from my bust to my waist, and then from the waist to the hip, like so. So now remember, when I'm cutting on my main fabric, I'll be adding my sewing allowances. So whatever you have there, you take it to the length of the gown, like so. So this is what I have. So now I'll just do the neckline for the back and then the armhole for the back as well, because this same paper I will not need to cut out another fabric, another paper to cut out for the back. So I'll be using this same pattern paper to cut out for the back first before manipulating for the front. So now I just did my back armhole, sorry, I beg your pardon, the back neck depth, which I made use of 1.5 inches, and then I'll just basically cut this out. And so let me just cover the armhole for the back as well. So I'll just cut this out, then use this as a template to cut out for the back piece. So this is what we have. So now I'll just place this, fold my fabric into two, and then add my zipper allowance for the back and then cut it out. So you can see this is what I did. Like I was trying to explain, that's my zipper, 1.5 inches for my zipper. I cut out the neckline for the back, the armhole for the back, and then I decided to add extra sewing allowances from the chest line down to the waistline, just for everything to rhyme perfectly well. And then I made up for the length of the gown, as you can see. So we have our front back piece cut out already. So I'll be folding this and then setting it aside. So I'm going to open up the pattern paper right about now, so that I would do whatever I need to do for my front piece. Now I'll cut out the armhole for the front. You know, it was the back that I cut out initially. So I'll just trim out that of the front and then trim out the neckline depth as well. So this is what we have. So let me just open this up. So I've gone ahead to extend the lines on the waistline and then the hip line. It's really not necessary, but it's at the same time it's important so that you know where you're covering whatever you're going to be doing from. So now this is where your artistic or your creative part comes in place. Yeah, when you look at the picture very well, as you saw on the thumbnail, you can see that the first line from the design came from the left hand side to the right hand side, like the one that came from almost the armhole area of the left hand side. Let me just quickly show you how the picture looks again, so you can see the way it came out. Yeah, that's the way it was slanted from one side to the other side of the hip line. So that is what I'm just trying to explain right there. So from your armhole or from your shoulder measurement, you can come down by 5 inches or 4 inches. And then on the hip line on the right side, you can come down from your hip side by, or from your hip side, you can just go up by 2 or 3 inches from your hip side and then give it a very good curve. I'll be using freehand method. I'll not be using my pattern master or ruler at all. So from my shoulder right here, I'll come down by 4 inches. And then on the hip line, I'll just come here, I'll go up by 3 or 4 inches as well. So these are the 2 points I have. So I'll be connecting that in form of a slanted line. You can see the way it is on the thumbnail. So that's why I just had to check that again. So just prove your creativity in this way. And then you curve it out like so. I'm still going to be adjusting this because I didn't like what it gave me. So I'll go ahead and give it a very good curve again. So like I said, this is where your creativity comes in. So now you can see I gave it a bit of a curve right here now. So I think I'm okay with this second curve that I made. So this is the line I'll be making use of. So that's the first line that we have there. And then for the second line, we're going to come to our waist area like so. And I'll be maintaining the waist area, because if you check the thumbnail, you're going to be saying that that second line came from the waist area, and then it slanted down to the middle of the gown in the front. So this one does not really need much problem, because you're just going to be slanting it. You're going to be seeing how I'm going to be doing that. So from the waistline, I didn't leave the waistline, I maintained the waistline, and then you're going to be giving it a curve like that, and then get to the middle part of the paper like so, like the midpoint of the gown like so. So the only thing I would just advise is that the way I curved mine, it made the middle part, I don't know, a little bit bigger. I wouldn't know, but I'm just thinking. So probably I would have gone a little bit higher when I was curving it, just to give it but if you make it a little bit higher, when you want to sew it, it's going to make that place more squeezed. It's not going to be smooth. So I think this same way I did it is okay. So just carve it out like so. So now I'm going to be labeling this. This is going to be a plain fabric. This side is going to be the African print or Ankara, and the upper part is going to be African print or Ankara as well. So we're basically through with the drafting, and then I'll be cutting out this paper, and then I'll go ahead and cut all this on the fabric as well. So I was just trying to check it very well to ascertain that I had gotten the actual thing that is needed before cutting this out. So I'll go ahead and cut out. So when cutting this, especially the lower part of this, please don't forget to add your extra inches for the length of the gown. So this is what we have. We have them in pieces like so. So now I'll just go ahead and cut this out on my fabric, and then I'll be back to show you. And when you're cutting on the fabric, all those places that were carved out, you must make sure you add half inch on the sides, because so that you're going to be joining the plain to the Ankara fabric, so you need sewing allowance to that on those sides that I was pointing at. So this is what I have. Like I said, I've gone ahead to cut them out, and I added the sewing allowances. You can see what I was trying to explain. But if you don't add the sewing allowances, it's going to be affecting the sewing. So you need to add those sewing allowances to that. And so when I've joined it, this is what we have. And I made use of a velvet ribbon to adorn those parts that I joined, as you can see. And I used my lining to turn the neckline and everything. As you can see, everything is sitting perfectly well. So this is the back piece. I've gone ahead to turn the lining and then added my zipper. As you can see, please, if you're hearing any background noise, please kindly ignore. So now I'm going to be joining it on the shoulders by half an inch. Just place the right sides facing each other like so, and then you'll be joining on the shoulders by half an inch, and then I'm going to be closing it out on the sides, taking out the normal measurements, And then of course I used a basic sleeve for the sleeve. So this is what we have. I've gone ahead to do that. You can see if you want to add a pocket, you can go ahead and add a side seam pocket, but I'm not adding any pocket to this. I'm going to be leaving it like this, and this is how it came out. So you need to give it a very good press so that everything will sit perfectly and lay perfectly and neatly well. So as you can see, this is what we have. It's a very simple tutorial. I just decided to share it so that we'll all see how it looks. So this is what we have. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. Just added a basic sleeve. So if you enjoyed watching this tutorial, please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and don't forget to share. Thank you all, and God bless you. And this is Genius Signatures, and I'm